Hey, this is AJ with Blackhawk Bushcraft. Appreciate you joining the channel today. I had a viewer reach out, one of my subscribers, and ask about a feather sticking tutorial video. And I found that to be a very kind compliment to ask me to put something out there related to feather sticking, because I do not consider myself at all among the world's best feather stickers. I know enough to get myself in trouble, and I know enough to get a fire going, and that's about it. But I figured, yeah, I can totally put out a video. I do want to say that I cannot take credit for anything that I am going to share today. My ability to feather stick increased leaps and bounds when I came across a channel quite a while ago, and the tips and tricks that were shared in that video really is what allowed me to think about feather sticking differently and to be more cognizant related to things like pressure and technique and wood selection. And the videos that I'm talking about are from an exceptional channel. If you do not know about this channel, I recommend that you go take a look at these tutorial videos. I will put them in the description. It is Rob Evans Woodsman, and his videos are absolutely exceptional. He is a fantastic feather sticker and an all-around exceptional woodsman, and he is the gentleman who also makes very wonderful bushcraft knives. His grind, his zero Scandi grind that he uses, is a perfect grind for me, I found, related to other Scandi knives that I own. Granted, I still like many of the other non-Rob Evans Woodsman's knives that I own, but as far as his knives are concerned, he just puts together an exceptional tool that works very, very well. So, at least for AJ at Blackhawk Bushcraft, Rob Evans knives are the ones that have become my go-to. Okay, there's my little spiel about the knives and Rob Evans Woodsman's YouTube channel. And again, take a look at his tutorials, because he'll be able to go through this stuff way better than I can. I'm just going to kind of regurgitate some things that I've learned from him and some things based on my own thoughts that I've kind of picked up over the years. But I want you to take a look at this here. Okay. So we've got some conifer wood, some coniferous wood. This is lodgepole pine, and this is what I'm going to be using. And I will say that lodgepole pine or coniferous woods are not my all-around favorites, and this is why. Because coniferous wood is usually riddled with little knots throughout in the way that the trees grow, and they do not make for great feather sticking woods. There's other woods that I think work much better. Some of your woods like willow and aspen are among my favorites for feather sticks, but this is what I have. It's very readily available around here in these parts. Again, this is lodgepole pine. I brought some of this back from our recent trip in the Uintas, and you can see here a whole bunch of wood shavings too. And I will say about feather sticks and wood shavings, if you're not able to do feather sticks, wood shavings work just as well. You can get a fire going with wood shavings, and the wood that you have sometimes may be pretty crappy wood, which is what I find to be the case generally with lodgepole pine. And so making just a bunch of shavings to get a fire going works very well. But if you know what you're doing, you can process the lodgepole pine down to get sections that will feather very, very nicely. And that's what I kind of want to show you in this video, is what I do to prepare to make a feather stick that's pretty straight grained. So what you're going to want to look for is the straightest grain, not free pieces that you can. I usually will make sure that they are a good 12 to 14 inches long, basically fingertip to elbow. Well, not quite if you look at it this way. I've probably got about another 2.5 to 3 inches that I could go, but something like that is what I use for feather sticking. And you'll notice here too, if you look at this grain, the way that this split, you can see that the grain is wanting to go that way. Okay, going against the grain, I find with coniferous woods and lodgepole pine that you will have a tendency to chip. This is a very chippy wood when it's seasoned. This was standing dead, so feathering it works best for me when I'm going the direction that the grain and the fibers naturally are growing. But you can take a piece like this and prepare it for feathering. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this off. As you can see, it's very, very chippy. There we go. Let's angle this down so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just preparing this wood, planing it so that we can feather it nicely. Okay, that's probably okay. Just clean that off. And again, don't waste any of these shavings as you're preparing your wood for feathering, because those shavings will work wonders for starting a fire. Okay, so you've got something like this now. And the secret with feather sticking, one of the secrets to a great feather sticking technique, is to have a piece of wood with ridges. Because what you're doing when you're feather sticking is you're wanting to feather the little ridges off, which are what create those very nice curls. So as you're going with the grain of the wood and you're feathering this, you get those really nice curls. And so let me kind of show you what I'm talking about with this piece of wood that we just prepared. Let me bring this in a little bit closer. Actually, before we even get to that, I'm going to talk a little bit more about technique. So a lot of the times people struggle, and I know that I struggled, so I can say this honestly about my own journey through feather sticking, is gripping the knife way too hard. When you grip the knife hard, you have a tendency to want, the knife has a tendency to want to dig in, which gives you more of these types of things, which are shavings, not really feathers. But again, they work. But if you're wanting to get those really nice fine curls, you just basically cradle the knife in your hand very gently without a lot of pressure and keep your arm in tight. Don't keep it out here when you're feathering, you know. You get more control if you just kind of keep your arm in tight. I'll say too that the method that works best for me is, and I'll tell you what I used to do, so let me just move this around. So I used to hold things between my legs like this and my elbow way out here, and I would push down like this. And as you can see, as you're feathering, your stick is wanting to bounce and move around as you're moving the knife in, and especially if you have a lot of pressure and you're pushing too hard, your stick's moving around, your knife's moving around, you just don't have any stability to your wood and your knife when you're trying to feather. One of the tips and tricks I picked up of Rob was to hold your wood on a firm surface as if you were planing the wood. The way that he talks about it is when you're planing wood, you're not ever planing wood in carpentry up in the air and going across it with your plane. This is always going to be on a solid surface and held in a vise. Feather sticking is pretty much the same concept. It's a way of planing the wood to generate really fine feathers. And I found for me, I don't have as much success when I'm moving the knife and going down the wood like this. And you're always going to lose the first few feathers until you create yourself a stop. So let's just go ahead and get a few feathers until we get a nice stop. And again, make sure you're rotating the wood and you're just taking off all of those ridges that you're creating when you're planing the wood. You just rotate the stick and you find the next ridge and you plane it off, and then you rotate the stick, find the next ridge and plane it off. But as you can see, when I'm pushing my hand down and I try to keep it in, so it feels a little bit awkward to me, and I can't do it that great. You can get some great curls, but what I find works for me is to actually pull the wood back like this, and to keep my knife hand firm, to rotate the stick and to pull back. And then that way my wood is not moving, my knife is not moving. Again, you're going to lose some curls. But as you can see there, that gives me the best control when I'm feather sticking. A lot of people would say, no, you need to move your hand or whatever. I don't think that there's really a right or a wrong way to feather sticking. I think that there's ways to increase the likelihood and chance of getting the best feathers possible when you're feather sticking. And again, having the wood floating between your legs with your knife is probably one of the technique mistakes that most people make, which causes them not to maintain great knife and material control when trying to make feathers. Others, like Rob, he has no problem. He can pull the stick back and make great feathers. He can also keep his elbow tucked in and move the knife down the stick and make really good feathers like that too. And I think that that takes more knife control. At least for me it does. I find for me moving the knife down, I have a tendency to always be cutting the feathers off at the end and losing more when I do it that way than if I just take the stick, rest it on my thigh and my knife and pull it up and just cut the ridges off like that. Okay? Again, don't grip this like in a death grip when you're doing it. Just keep your hand, pull this over a little bit again, down. I just kind of cradle it in my palm like this, keep my elbow up against my body as best I can, wood on my thigh, find the angle, and then just pull back. So I'm not in a death grip on that wood at all. It's just cradled in my palm, and most of the pressure is actually coming from the wood, which, as you can see, sliding across the thigh. Sometimes I actually bring it up off my thigh. You just kind of get a feel for it. And again, you get really good feathers. This is really what started me on a whole entirely new journey of learning how to work wood with a Scandi grind knife. And it also helps to have a knife that has a great grind in order to do this. I will say though that even if you don't have a Scandi grind, say that your preferred grind is a flat grind or a saber grind. If you look at some of my shorts, one short in particular is one of my beater knives, which is a Gerber Prodigy, and with the tip of the Prodigy I can still get really, really good feathers. So let me go ahead and recap again. No death grip, just cradle it gently in your hand. Keep your material and your hand in place so that you are working the material and planing the wood. Just like that. Rotating the stick as you go so that you're always cutting off a new ridge that you've created, and it's those little ridges that give you the really nice curls when you're shaving those off. And again, finding a piece of material that's got a nice straight grain, cutting with the grain, not against it, depending on the type of wood, like with this that would have a tendency to want to chip out or split out or take off too much material. And then as far as the knife's concerned, the edge of the knife that I use when I'm feather sticking is always going to be the belly of the blade. Rob talks about this too. I used to feather or try to feather with the edge closest to the hand because of things that are out there or ways that you learn to say, you know, you're always going to have more control if you're cutting with the blade as close to the hand, because the further you move out toward the edge of the blade, then the more wobbly things get. And while that is true, this is why I am a small bushcraft knife guy, because I find small knives like this very easy to manage, versus if I take out one of my 7.5 or 8 inch long knives, trying to work the tip of that on a piece of material, you find yourself really wobbling. So what you can do to kind of compensate for that is just put the edge of the blade behind your knee. But with a bigger knife you can do that, and then same concept is you're just going to pull the wood back with that knife blade behind your knee. If it's a longer blade, you just, instead of having the tip all the way out here, you just bring the tip closer in so that it gives you better control. Now, as far as technique related to the tip, I usually will always feather with tip up, which will force the curls to go to the left. So as I'm holding this, as you can see there, the curls want to go that way. If you go tip down, the curls, this feels really awkward to me. Okay. If you go tip down, this feels more awkward to me. I lose more curls that way when I'm going tip down and forcing the curls to the right than when I just hold the tip of the blade up like this. It just feels better to me. It's a lot easier for me to do it that way. Okay? And you just bend those up. So you start getting some of these really nice curls. Now, these types of curls are plenty fine enough to take an ignition source like a ferro rod. It's probably going to take a few strikes, you know, I don't know, anywhere between 3 to 6 typically, is if I only do them this fine. On a ferro rod it will work just fine. Now if you're using an open flame ignition source like a lighter and a match, you can actually go more coarse than these. But one of the tips that Rob shared, which I really found useful, is if you feather just with the very tip of the blade, like that, this is what gives you those really nice corkscrew, really fine curls that will take a spark so much better than some of your finer but more coarse curls, like you can see here. So I'm just going to kind of show you what that looks like. Okay, I'll bring this in a little bit. So again, just resting my hand on here, trying to keep my elbow knot like all the way out here, just kind of a comfortable position, no death grip. And you just use the tip of your knife and that gives you those really, really nice curls. As you can see, my technique has evolved. Like I can really, like, as long as my knife hand is firm and in place, like I can actually take my wood and still keep everything moving very level and without any problem, like with the wood bouncing around, because my knife hand and my blade and my plane is not moving. Okay, and again, you're just moving the wood, you're rotating around using that tip of your knife And these are the types of curls you get. These really, really fine curls right here. But again, holding my knife hand straight, get some of those really nice tip curls. And again, you're going to lose a few of the curls. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Just pick them up and save them. Yeah, that one looked really nice. Yeah. There we go. See how that just corkscrews like that? It's the tip of the knife is the secret on that. Just finding those ridges and taking them off. To get the super, super fine ones, and those right there will take a spark from even a very small ferro rod. And then you've got your coarser curls up here. But that's pretty much all there is to the feather sticking that I wanted to talk to you about. So for me, I don't feather stick because I have to. I do it because I enjoy it. There's just something about being able to split down some wood and know what you're looking for, to take a really, gnarly knotted piece of lodgepole pine, to split it down and to be able to select some sections and work them, make your shavings, get a piece prepared down, and to practice your knife skills and your knife control. That's why I like it. They look really, it's fun and enjoyable for me to do. They look pretty cool. And yeah, so that's my take on feather sticks. I don't feather stick because I have to. Now, depending on your area, you may find yourself that, yeah, for me to get a fire going, I don't have the types of resources like you do, AJ, in your area, so I feather stick in order to get me some igniter sticks so that I can get a fire going. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Especially if you're wanting to gain better knife control. Feather sticking is one of the best ways to learn how to manage pressure, not to always hold your knife in a complete death grip. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and ruin this feather stick, but if I hold really tight and pull that wood, see, that's what you get. Like, the harder you hold, and you're pulling, the harder it is to control how deep that blade wants to bite. So if you're wanting to make yourself just some nice shavings, kindling shavings, then yeah, give it a death grip and shave them off. And you'll get yourself tons and tons of coarse chips like this, which will work really good as a kindling source. But if you're wanting to feather, you've got to loosen up on the grip, you've got to keep your knife pretty much controlled, you've got to keep your material to where you're not bouncing around. Doing it on your thigh is a great way to learn. Let's go ahead and grab, and again, I'll grab out one of my other knives and we'll just kind of go ahead and start again. Just grab this on here, keeping my knife hand on my thigh, my arm relaxed, and then just kind of starting it up just like this. Tip up, because I want those curls to go to the left. And you're going to start with some coarser material coming off, some coarser curls, forming yourself a nice stop. Oh, just lost one. It's not a big deal. Rotating the stick as you're getting those curls, because again, the point is to find the ridges and to keep rotating the stick so that you're always taking off a ridge. If you try to carve on a continuously flat surface, then you're going to end up with more what looks like these types of wood chips. Okay? So we're just going to go ahead, and again, you may find that it's easier for you to move your knife hand than to pull the stick. For me, I find pulling the stick just works the best. And when you're rotating the stick, as you can see, it probably doesn't even look like I'm rotating a whole lot. It's just ever so slightly, just to kind of change the geometry of the plane and the material, so that you're continually shaving off another section of wood and ridge. And then you get pretty fast at it, pretty good, and you know, you can get really nice looking feathers and creating really nice igniting feather sticks in no time at all. And again, some of you may find that it's easier to go down. I feel, again, for me, that feels really awkward. It almost wants me to subconsciously put my thumb on the spine, and that is a huge no-no for better knife control. If you're wanting to kind of keep a more gentle grip, like pointing down like this, it just like naturally wants me to kind of rest my thumb up there, and it just, I don't like how that feels. Now you may find that moving down, you know, tip down to get some to go to the right, tip up to get some to go to the left. You can just kind of go straight too. And if you find yourself going straight, then the curls will just kind of follow straight as well. And you don't really kind of get that to the left motion with the way that the curls go, but it kind of almost makes the feather stick start to kind of corkscrew around as you're rotating it around with the feathers based on the way that you're pointing the tip. If you're tip down, you're going to go to the right. If you're tip up, you're going to go to the left. And then again, for those really fine curls, keep your hand, you know, no death grip, just gentle, not a lot of pressure, and then you're just going to go right with that tip. And this is a nice, maybe I can get 20 of those curls. Oh, maybe that one, let's see. Let's count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nice. Let's get some really nice curls there. Again, always rotating the stick ever so slightly. Using the belly of the knife to get your fine but coarser curls, and using the tip to get your really corkscrewed, fine, pointy curls. And then just kind of mixing it up. So I'm going to go more toward the belly, get some finer curls, go to the tip to get the really fine corkscrews, like that one right there. But yeah, that's all there is to it. So I hope you found this video helpful as far as a feather sticking tutorial. Again, nothing really earth-shattering that I shared that you can't find at even a better level by visiting Rob's videos in the description. I'm going to link to his channel and those videos, but check out those tutorials if you really want to take your feather sticking to the next level like I did. And until the next video, thank you so much. Take care.